me definitely on the other side. So it's definitely been a yeah. I mean, it's packed. It's I have a but that's the way I run things. It's very low downtime. I try to meditate. The puppy that we've just got is giving me more time to kind of just calm down, and holding him like it's like a baby again. And
Mm.
I can't run around and do a million things with when you're holding a young puppy. So that's kind of calmed me down a little bit, relaxed me a bit. Do a lot of breathing type of exercise, things like that kind of combat a little of the opposite stressed high kind of high go high high pressure go level that I kind of love being at. But you're right, it's having that balance is really important. Something that I find some outlets, but that's in there. If there's a weakness, that's there.
Yeah, but also at the same time, especially you with a family, uh, y there's about segmenting your time or somehow allocating your time in order to do the things that you need to do. How have you been able to do that? So, like you say, you get multiple auditions a week, maybe, and you're also doing this work on the side in order to prepare yourself. And also, of course, you've got a family to take care of, and a bunny and a puppy. So, how are you finding ways to allocate your time so that you can have that appropriate focus? Because there are many people in these similar situations where, and it might even be roommates, right? It might be roommates, it might be living with their parents, it might be, whatever their situation is. They might indeed have a family as well. So there's many things that are pulling your attention and pulling your focus and pulling your time. How do you ensure that you have the time to spend on the things that you're actually working on?
So once I started doing the financial, because the way I hold my financial piece is that the I have a good staff that really can do most of the day to day stuff, and I kind of do more of the high level piece.
Mhm.
So it's kind of being more efficient there, delegating when I need to. On the flip side, that's where the accountability group, for example, becomes a help in that a lot of times we give back and forth, but at the same time, the we're getting in from a group of us, 6, 7 of us, that's giving in. I'm putting in 1/6, 1/7 of the work, but we have 7 pieces of information coming in or help coming in. So it's kind of leveraging those things. A lot of
Mm.
times I try to do multiple things at the same multiple benefits at the same time. So for example, when I first started in acting, I also had a young family. And so I'm like, I love acting. I love my daughters in terms of how can I max the two. And so what I ended up doing was doing plays with them. So we
Mm.
did the King and I, for example. I played the King. They two of them who were old enough were my the princesses in the play, so they got cast with me. So we've been doing throughout the years, we've been doing a lot of projects together. So I kind of have that. So the same hour, not also is it tied into acting, but there's the acting piece that's covered, and then the stuff, family time that's covered.
Mm. Interesting. And so as we wrap up here, I think touching lastly on the Clubhouse situation, I think that's something that's very interesting to focus on. You coming from the financial world, especially in terms of stocks, you're very aware of how should I put it, startups, of new things happening, of trends escalating, of a marketplace catching on, right? Of things evolving. Something I pay attention to too as well. I'm certainly very interested in stocks and all that sort of stuff. But that said, Clubhouse falls into this realm of new things that the marketplace is paying attention to. And I certainly advocate for actors to pay attention to the marketplace, not just the industry itself, but the marketplace as a whole. There's an education component to it that is dynamic and changing. Certainly now, obviously, the pandemic has brought to light many things that are shifting and changing and evolving, and going to be different in the next few years than they were for the past 10 or 20, right? So that's important because your industry is inside of a market, right? It's inside of an economy. It's inside of a shifting culture, right? And it's important to know where potentially that's moving towards so that you can prepare yourself. Because if you are running a business, it's important to know where everything is going so you don't end up being Blockbuster in the Netflix age, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that said, Clubhouse is this incredible opportunity. You jumped on it early. I just wonder, what is your sort of insight and perspective on it, as sort of a useful access point for actors? What do you think that they can get out of it? How can they pay attention to something like this in the future? And maybe there's something else coming down the pipeline do you think might be interesting?
Well, the reason why Clubhouse to me is so amazing is that I come from, I started in Boston in my career, being a
Mm,
small market. So I've always kind of had this like underdog kind of mentality of being, well, I wish I was in New York where everything was happening. And now that I'm in New York, it's where, well, as I'm going for larger project, well, those are kind of out in LA, but I'm in New York. I can't, and I have a family. It's not, I can't all of a sudden stop and just, unless there's a project, I can't just go there and stay there for a year and build relationships. Here is a way for me to be in New York and at the same time where I know the main casting of some of the projects I'm going out for are from LA. Here's a great way to build a connection of people and
mm,
start to know people, understand the market. What's happening in LA is very different than happening in New York, which is very different than happening in Atlanta or than the smaller markets. Here's a way to kind of connect, understand what those trends are happening, because sometimes trends come to the East Coast later. Sometimes East Coast is first, but a lot of times we that get that info all of a sudden is open for me. Before that it was it was very hard to get that info. That's where I love the Actor CEO podcast is that that's where you could get information, all these different insights. And to me, that data is really important, just like stocks, right? The person who just kind of picks a stock is they're like, that looks, I had it this morning. Great. I had coffee this morning there. Good coffee. Let's buy the stock. It doesn't really work that way. To really do like a fund manager analysis there, you got to look at the books. You got to understand the revenues. You got to understand the models, the trends, the competition, all that sort of thing. I look at it the same way when we build our actor careers. And here's a great way to be able to get all this insight that I never could get to this depth before. 24 hours a day. So it's to me a great way. And another thing that I'm seeing as an actor who's going for kind of series regular type stuff is that one of the things that it becomes an image as a big part of who you are, like whether or not you're a known actor for getting a series regular role kind of thing, or what kind of, it's not just about, maybe at some other levels it's more about just your talent and just your abilities as an actor. But as the further up I go, I realize it's more about who, how you're viewed, your image, that sort of thing. And Clubhouse has also been a way to be able to help that
mm.
as well, in terms of, for me, kind of connecting with some people who would never have known of me before. And so I'm able to kind of use Clubhouse in a way where it's able to do that, get data, connect with people who I've never connected before, learn so much. So to me, it's a great platform for all of that.
Exactly. And for anybody listening, I hope they're listening very closely because what's happening is you've got this one resource that's allowing multiple angles, right? Which for any business is incredibly helpful, right? Any business wants one thing that does multiple things. And right now, Clubhouse is free, right? And it's going to expand to Android and other platforms are going to take on this audio thing too. Luckily, I've been in the game for a while, so I get to take advantage of all these people going, "Oh, audio's a thing." It's like, yeah, it's a thing. So that's going to happen, and maybe something else overtakes Clubhouse or whatever. But the point of the matter is exactly as you mentioned that there's multiple angles that you can actually create for yourself that makes sense long term, short term for your business and building relationships and how you're viewed. Actors overlook many of these things that every business has to pay attention to, which of course is building relationships, but marketing, how you're viewed, which is like PR essentially. All these the connections that you make, how quickly you can make them. All this stuff it allows a business to thrive rather than rely on market forces, trends, hoping that you're in the right place at the right time. That is not a business plan. That is just guessing and stabbing in the dark. And most people step out of training, certainly when it comes to artists, step out of training and think that I'm just need to be in the right place at the right time. That's an ineffective strategy, and you can certainly be on the wrong side of that very quickly. And we see it happen a lot. So I think that you've made some very clear points here, and that's very helpful. So take a moment here, let everybody know again where they can find these Clubhouse rooms that you're hosting. One which you'll be hosting very shortly here. Let everybody know where they can find them, and of course where they can find you, Michael, that they can follow your success.
Sure. So we do two actor rooms every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. Pacific. We have the Actors Breakfast Club where we interview all people in the industry, actors, heads of shows, stars today from the past, cast directors, agents, managers, and had great conversations. And they're not recorded, so they just kind of every day we have a new guest, and for about an hour and a half, and then at night we have the business side of acting, where we talk with leading experts in the business and take questions from the audience. So it's a very different style, and that's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And you can find me on either Michael Toe on IMDb or on Instagram, Michael.toe, Toe.